Thanks so much for staying with us on Morning Live. Now, the Independent Electoral Commission, or the IEC, has briefed political parties on the implementation of the Political Party Funding Act, which is due to come into effect on the 1st of April. And according to the Act, parties cannot receive funds from government departments and state-owned entities. Neither can foreign governments or their entities donate to South African political parties. And in its briefing yesterday, the IEC said that it will have the power to suspend or withhold payments from political parties should there be irregular donations. So for more on this, we are now joined by the IEC's Chief Electoral Officer, Mamabolo. Mr. Mamabolo, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and same to your viewers.
I think the general public may be quite pleased with these latest developments, but what has been the general response from the political parties?
Understandably, parties are a bit, they're approaching this with a measure of trepidation because the effect of the Act, or the advent of the Act, has meant that their traditional supporters, financial backers, have withdrawn. And at the same time, the Commission is quite alive to the need for political parties to be sufficiently resourced to enable them to play a role that they should, to to coalesce public opinion on certain policies, to mobilize people into coherent policy-making processes, and so on. So for democracy to thrive, indeed, parties must be well-funded to play their role in an open and democratic society. Yet, at the same time, our Constitution calls for accountability, calls for transparency, and we believe that this piece of legislation lays the basis for that openness that is necessary regarding their financial matters. So we want to partner with parties to work together to enable them to create the necessary infrastructure they require for them to be in a position to comply with the Act.
Now, Mr. Mamabolo, just for the education of the general public and ourselves, what are some of those requirements when it comes to individuals or entities making donations to parties?
Yes, the Act provides that any corporate entities who make direct donations to political parties have to disclose those donations. So it's a dual disclosure regime, in a sense that the disclosure responsibility vests in both the donating party, if it's a corporate or a foundation and so on, as well as the party itself. Donations of a value of 100,000 rands have to be disclosed, and that is 100,000 rand in a financial year starting 1 April running through to the 31st of March. So if you make 30,000, another 30,000, there may not be a requirement to disclose, but as soon as it reaches the 100,000 threshold, the disclosure requirement kicks in. There is also a limit to which donors are subjected, which is 15 million in a financial year. So you can't donate more than 15 million in a financial year. Again, that's a cumulative figure in a given 12 months. The state-owned entities, state-owned enterprises and so on are prohibited from making donations, as are foreign governments and agencies of foreign governments, and parties may not accept proceeds of crime as well.
So you also did mention about declarations that will be published annually. How exactly will that work, and what will be contained in those declarations?
We have a duty as the Electoral Commission to, on a quarterly basis, publish the declarations made by both donors and political parties. Ahead of the local government elections later this year, it is our anticipation that at least one public report will be availed via several means on the website and through other platforms that we use for the dissemination of information. So parties at the end of every quarter, they have to disclose, and then the IEC has about 4 weeks. It will take about 4 to 6 weeks to then table a composite report of all donations made to all political parties. Will make that available to the public.
Mr. Mamabolo, what happens should parties or their donors fail to comply with the regulations as stipulated? How will you, for example, be able to trace any funds that may not have been paid in accordance with the Act?
At the end of the financial year, political parties have to appoint a public auditor who will then scrutinize who will have the responsibility to scrutinize the bank accounts of the political parties and audit them accordingly. And that auditor would then have to express an opinion whether the finances of that party have been managed in accordance with the Act. Now, in the event that there is prima facie evidence of non-compliance, the Commission may cause that non-compliance to be investigated. And if then evidence materializes indicating a de facto non-compliance, then there are a number of measures that the Commission can implement. Firstly, the Commission is vested with authority to issue directions to the party to indicate to them to comply. And if there are repeat offences, the Commission may approach the Electoral Court on application to ask the court to order the party to comply and issue administrative fines. Now, those fines range from 50,000 rands up to 1,000,000 rands, which parties may have to pay at the instance of an injunction by the court. But additionally, violation of particular provisions of the Act amounts to criminal conduct. So whilst we may be dealing with the matter via a civil procedure in terms of the process with the Electoral Court, there are also criminal sanctions that arise. And depending on the section that has been transgressed, you may either be sentenced to 2 years imprisonment or to a maximum of 5 years imprisonment and or a fine. So the Act does create serious criminal offences as it does civil offences.
Ms. Mamabolo, 2 quick questions to end this off. Now, will the same rules apply as rules of funding for individuals who may run as independent candidates? And the second one relates to tax deduction. Are these donations to political parties tax deductible? No, they are not, and I think that's an area of future policy development. We do think that those who contribute to multi-party democracy must be rewarded somehow by the tax arrangement of the Republic. So it's a matter for future policy development. As the Act stands, it applies to political parties. Clearly, there's a need to revise certain portions of the Act going forward to bring within its scope those who contest elections by way of independent candidature, so that those are also brought into the fold, so that the same rules apply across the political playing field. Mr. Mamabolo, we have to leave it there. Thanks so much for your time. IEC's Chief Electoral Officer, Mamabolo, talking to us about the Political Funding Act, which is expected to come into effect on April the 1st.